Bill Calderwood. I live on Holiday Boulevard here on Guimas Island. Been here since November of 2001, and I'm a part-time resident. I used to be a full-time resident, but work took me down to San Diego, so I worked until I retired, and now I'm retired, so hopefully more time here on Guimas Island, but that hasn't turned out to be the case. I served 32 years in the Navy, and I was in the electronic warfare business. I flew in EP-3s and EA-3 aircraft, 11 different submarines.
Wow.
Been on cruisers, aircraft carriers. Like I say, 32 years. I started in 1970.
Wow.
I got draft number 72 and decided I didn't want to be an Army person, so I showed up. I didn't show up for my Army induction, so I joined the Navy Reserve and went to Pensacola and Germany and the Philippines, several places in Japan. Like I say, I did a lot on the airplanes and submarines and surfer ships like the USS Bainbridge, the USS Truxtun, USS Arkansas, the USS Biddle, Thomas S. Gates, and did counter-drug patrols, patrolled in Gulf of Tonkin during Vietnam, did a lot of Cold War stuff in the submarines and the EP-3s, both in the Atlantic and the Pacific.
Wow.
And came back and ran a maintenance organization where we installed submarines and provided augmentation people to go out on submarines. And then for my last tour in the Navy, I ended up here at Whidbey Island. I was a commanding officer of the Naval Security Group activity at Whidbey Island. And then 9/11 happened, and I was going to retire, but they kept me on active duty. I went to Tampa, Florida, where I worked for General Tommy Franks, is under his intelligence organization as a collection manager. And after 6 months there, they decided to let me go. Well, they sent me back to Guimas Island, and for 6 months I was still in the Navy drawing a paycheck, but I was picking berries, picking mushrooms, clamming, and all those kinds of things you do on Guimas Island, and enjoying life a lot. So that's pretty much my story.
Yeah, yeah. Was there any times that you were really afraid for yourself?
Oh, one time on the EP-3, we'd on this airplane, one of our engines had eaten a stork on launch out of Djibouti, and the stork went in one side and came out as a fireball on the other side. And we thought didn't have very much maintenance out there in Djibouti, so we assumed everything was okay. That didn't happen. So we were flying back to Diego Garcia from Djibouti, and that engine started just leaking all kinds of oil. And we were trying to get back to Diego Garcia and couldn't find it because back in those days there was no GPS. And so luckily we were able to find the little AM radio station on Diego Garcia and used our radio direction finder to find the island. We had to do expanding square searches trying to find the island. And later on, the same plane, they hadn't got it quite fixed, and so
And you got on it again.
we got on it again. They took off, and the engine caught on fire. So they had to put the fire out, and the other three engines were, you're really heavy on takeoff. And so the other three engines are way overworking, so the other ones just stopped. So we were on two engines on a 4-engine plane, full of 26 people, a full load of fuel, and we're over the the Gulf of Aden, and we're sinking. We can't fly. We're falling at 300 feet per minute. I said, we really don't want to go in that water. It's all full of sharks down there.
Yeah.
And so luckily we were able to get the plane turned around and land in Djibouti. Didn't have to go for a swim.
Oh my goodness. Swimming with sharks.
And I guess the final remembrance I have is we were flying somewhere in the Sea of Japan, and we got word that somebody was coming out with not friendly intent against us, and so we dove towards the water. And the guy I was working with, one of the things we do, there is no in-flight recorder like on a commercial plane, so we had our wideband tape recorders which record all the things going on, as well as what they're there for. And so I had him go turn the thing on, and we're diving so fast he's floating over the over the tape recorder to turn it on. So we went from 25,000 feet down to a couple hundred feet, and we could see the white caps in the Sea of Japan underneath us. And luckily no problems there. We
Oh
pulled
my
out of
goodness.
that.
Oh, I know, but you might not have. Yeah, yeah, white knuckling it, right?
There we go.
Yeah. Now, submarines, they always seem a little scary to me because you're under the water in a can. Is that what it's like for you?
Oh, it's kind of like going on a really long airline trip. I mean, it's very similar to that. But you eat, work, sleep,
Yeah?
all within there, and it goes on for 60 to 90 days.
Is that right? That's would be your shift
You know,
or whatever you call it.
normally, and then at the end of that, you pull into a port and has some recreation and go out and do it again
R&R.
for 60 or 90 days or whatever. Yeah.
Was there
I
ever?
got-
Go ahead.
I guess the other thing I remember back was during the very last days of the Vietnam War. I was on the USS Truxtun in the Combat Information Center. We were watching North Vietnamese aircraft flying around, and two of these MiG-21s came out right at us. And we were at the time doing underway replenishment with another ship, and we had to defend ourselves. So they went out with axes and cut the lines between the ships. We broke off, put the missiles up, and it turned out to be they were doing electronic warfare against us. There were no MiG-21s, but it sure seemed like it for a
yeah,
while.
well, you have to be prepared. It could have been the other
So we
way.
had missiles on the rail and ready to shoot them down, but we projected when they should be there, and they should have got within the missile radar range, and nothing showed up on the missile radar. So
Okay.
that was,
You you got by that one.
yeah, lucked out.
So do you hang out with anybody that you used to serve with?
Occasionally, I run across some folks. I
Yeah,
used to.
yeah. Do you guys have reunions?
I've never been to one.
Yeah, yeah.
But they do have those
You
things.
did your time.
Well, I went to work after I retired from the Navy, and that took a lot of my time.
So what do you do now? What was your work?
Well, I was a contractor for the Navy, working on helping develop new systems similar to the ones I used in the Navy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
So I just leveraged my Navy
Continuation.
time and just continued
perfect.
on for another
Yeah,
20
good for
years.
you. Good for you. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, it was an honor to serve. I'd do it again.
Yeah.
And to the extent of doing it again, I've been with the Coast Guard Auxiliary for the last 25 years, doing things for the Coast Guard similarly. So,
A good guy all around.
no, but no pay, so for that anyway.
What? Well, there you go. Good guy all around.
I used to be a member of the flotilla up here down the Anacortes when I lived up here, but they went defunct.
Oh,
Nobody's volunteering to do that stuff anymore, but
yeah.
it was fun.
Well,
It
thank
is.
you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you,
Yeah, yeah. And welcome to Guimas. I hope you get to hang out here a little bit more.
Well, till next week,
And then you're off?
then we go back to San Diego, and we'll be back up probably for the Tulip Festival.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Well,